Now, hello everybody. Welcome to the Welsh Republic podcast, episode 171 today. And I am here with my good friend, Sarah. This is, I think, the fifth time she's been on the show today. She's the host of DDG GEOPOLITICS, the amazing show and the amazing political group. Welcome, Sarah. How are you doing today? Long time it's been. I think it's since the beginning of this year since you last came on my show. How are you doing, Sarah?
I'm doing well, thank you. I can't believe it's my fifth time. I didn't think I was that many, but oh my God, I've known you for like what, 2 or 3 years
Yeah,
now.
two years. I think it might be your fourth or fifth. Sorry,
Wow.
yeah, it has been a bit of a journey, hasn't it? Since the
Yeah.
last time I first met you, stuff like that. The same old. So, Sarah, how's your day been? What have you been up to?
Nothing. The weather's been terrible, and I wound up sleeping most of the day.
Oh, I don't blame you. Here in New Zealand, well, by the way, I actually just had COVID, Sarah. I just had a small, feeling of COVID, but it was fine. Got over it. It kind of felt like I was like coming out of a swimming pool. That's what COVID is. But yeah, the weather here is good. I'm feeling much better now. And yeah, it's been, it's getting hot here in New Zealand. What's it like? Is it? I mean, in California, you guys are like getting
I've been
close to your winter now.
I've been Washington.
Are you in Washington? What are you doing in Washington at the moment?
I live in Washington State.
Oh, so you live in Washington. Sorry, my bad. I thought you lived in California. Fair
No,
enough. Sorry, my
it's
bad. I made a bit of a confusion there.
no worries. No worries. Yeah, I'm in
you know,
Washington State.
that sounds cool. What's the weather like at this time in Washington State? Is
Terrible.
compared to California, what's kind of different weather-wise?
Terrible compared to California. Very dark,
I know.
very rainy in Washington.
You know, Interesting. That sounds pretty cool. And Sarah, I see that you've got a new French bulldog puppy.
I did. My prior dog unfortunately passed due to a unforeseen we're still not sure, but most likely a genetic thing or some sort of it's uncontrollable, nothing that we could have really done. It's called IVDD. It's something that sometimes Frenchies just get. And she passed away she deteriorated very quickly. But yeah, I got a new puppy. Um, my mother-in-law got her for me pretty shortly after my dog passed away to kind of help with my dog passing. And yeah, this dog is fantastic. She's a lot of fun.
Well, you know what? French bulldogs, they're such adorable dogs, and there's so many videos on YouTube of French bulldogs that like do funny noises, like they do. Oh, it's hilarious. I think you might have seen it, Sarah. There's a video of a French bulldog where this woman's pulling the French bulldogs in the baby thing, and they're pulling the French bulldog, and it's making weird noises on. There's even a funny video of a French bulldog like making funny noises around the neighborhood, and the owner's like saying, "What are you doing? Why are you making that noise?" Pretty funny, honestly. Does your one do that?
Not yet, but you might hear her in the episode. She's a pretty noisy dog. She's
Oh,
making noise right now, but she's not close by.
that's adorable. They're really good French bulldogs are, and I'm really sorry to hear that about your other dog. She was a really, I remember the previous episode, she would make noises in the background, which was adorable. It was so cute. Like, honestly, it was absolutely adorable. So, yeah, speaking about that, Sarah, getting back to that. So, yeah, I see that you've been doing the same old stuff as usual, doing the great shows that you do, doing the great political analysts that you do. And I remember you went to Iraq. So,
Mhm.
how was your trip in Iraq? When you went there, what was it like? What was the highlights of your trip there? And yeah, tell us about it. Go ahead.
Oh dear. I absolutely it was incredible. So it was a while ago. It's November now and it was in August, so let's see what I can remember. Um I flew into Istanbul, where we usually fly in when we fly out to the Middle East or Russia. Funnily enough, when I flew into Istanbul, I met up with Haz al-Din. He flew into Istanbul, and it was on the same flight. Um, and when we flew into Baghdad, I didn't know he was going to be on my flight. I knew he would be on the trip, but I didn't know he would be on my flight. And so we flew into Baghdad. Um, it's pretty. It was a small airport. It was nicer than I expected it to be for sure. And the reason why we went is because we were going for to Karbala for the annual pilgrimage, for the annual Shia pilgrimage. And so when we flew in, it was it's called Arba'in, is the annual Shia pilgrimage, but it commemorates the journey and death of Imam Hussein. But so when we flew in, it was the whole airport was just packed with pilgrims. It was pretty incredible, and they were all from mostly Azerbaijan. Um, that night, we were picked up by our driver. Um, fantastic, fantastic people who were our trip organizers. We had our bodyguards and our drivers, and then our guide. And we visited the memorial and shrine of uh, General Soleimani on our first night with me and Haas. And then the trip, so we did a lot of we did quite a bit of stuff around Baghdad, which is an incredibly beautiful city. And then we did 2 days in Karbala, which was the point of the trip. Karbala is about 2 hours from Baghdad, and you go through Babylon, which was also incredible. It's I think it's like the third oldest city on earth. I'm not sure, but it's in the top five, I believe. So that, you can just feel history when you're in places like this. We were in Basra, we were in Babylon, and then we went to Karbala. In Karbala, we were there for the days leading up to Arba'in. We weren't there for Arba'in. We had left, I think, a few days before, but the pilgrimage takes place the whole time. So, we went to Karbala, got to meet a lot of pilgrims. We mostly were with Palestinians and Lebanese people. It was really an incredible experience. Um, I met people from the Iraqi resistance, people from the Iraqi military. We met artists. Just really, just we. I thought it was my most favorite trip so far. It was incredible. It was life-changing. It was profound. I literally just messaged the guy that organized the trip. Since you asked me this question, I just messaged him since we've been talking and said I want to come back to Iraq because I'm dying to go back. I loved it. It was fantastic. And we went in what is the hottest time of the year, in the hottest place on earth. And it didn't bother me. The guys all got sick, which was so funny. Like Jackson Hinkle, he was sick. My producer Area, who he was sick. But I didn't get sick, and had a really, really nice and a really fantastic time. It's a very spiritual place, a very historical place, and you can feel sort of the culture around you. And it's a very war-torn place. The recency of the war is palpable, especially if someone like me, people like me and Chris, who both served in the United States military. It it's almost, there's a bit of guilt there, but the recency of the war is very, it has a very big effect on the place. Not in a bad way. It's just very. It's just, you just understand it. You'd have to go there to understand. It's very hard to explain. They're not sad or defeated. They're more resilient, but the recency of the war and the fact that there's still an occupation is this fact of life in Iraq for now.
Sarah, when you were there seeing the historic sites, what was your favorite historic site that you went to there that was like really just the highlight of your trip? Like the one you love the most, the one that you would recommend anyone to go to, one that would teach people history, whether they be from the east or the west.
Well, you would have to go to the shrine of Hussein, Ibn Ali. He's the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, and he is known as the third Shia Imam. That I would recommend that. I mean, women can't go, but even just being near it is an incredible experience. I recommend everybody go there. It's it's basically the Mecca, what would equate to Mecca for Shia, and it's an incredibly spiritual experience. There's a feeling there that you you can't get anywhere else. It's the world's largest annual public gathering. Um,
Hmm.
and people walk 80 kilometers from Najaf to Karbala on foot. Some people walk for over 20 days to get there. So it's a very, I think this year there were 23 million people. I highly recommend people go to the shrine of Hussein.
Definitely sounds like something to go there. I mean, I looked at those, videos of you there, Sarah, some of the videos there, and I'm amazed how Iraq has managed to rebuild itself. I know it's a bit war torn still, but it's incredible how they, stay so strong spiritually and tough, and how they keep going. And I really admire Russia and China for really helping Iraq rebuild, for infrastructure, because that's a known fact. That's a fact you don't hear from the
More
West.
so China, not very much
Oh,
Russia, but very
yeah,
much
yeah,
China.
yeah. Mhm.
When we were there, we got to talk. My good friend in
Mhm.
Iraq, he's a businessman, and he talked about how wonderful and easy it is to do business with the Chinese and how much they love it. They
Yeah, they're
love doing
incredible. Like,
business with the Chinese.
and it's just awesome how Iraqis, despite that awful war, of course, as we all know, was for the Great Israel Project and just one of the worst things ever, humanity, which was terrible. It's so unique how they managed to keep going, and amazing. I wish Iraq the best. I really hope it can keep going the way it is. Amazing people, so strong, so spirited, and also I tell you, they must be happy about the death of Dick Cheney.
I
What
haven't. Oh,
guy?
let me message him
Yeah,
about that and tell him. I'll
you know,
say congrats on. Oh, they probably did celebrate.
oh, really should be in hell, that man. And hopefully Benjamin Netanyahu will go soon too. I reckon his time's going to come. His time's going to come. It's inevitable. But speaking about that, Sarah. So yeah, speaking about that, where are you guys planning to go next for your next trip?
Um, well, hopefully my next trip won't be a trip. It will be more like a move. But I we were supposed to go to Lebanon, and that trip was canceled due to Israeli aggression. Um, and which obviously hasn't stopped. It's only gotten worse. And so I think our next trip is either Russia. Well, Area just got back from Russia, or Venezuela. I was invited to Venezuela.
Yep, that sounds awesome. That sounds really cool. Speaking of that, Sarah, this is a good way to put. So speaking about that, so as we all know, USA of course is targeting Venezuela. As we all know, it's for the oil. It's not for drug titles. So tell us about it. So tell us why is the USA targeting Venezuela, undermining its sovereignty, and why is the USA suddenly targeting places like Mexico, Colombia, and the Panama Canal? What's going on there? Like, tell me the reason why and the history with Venezuela and USA and all that stuff. Now go.
Well, it's not so much. You kind of hit it when you said Panama. Colombia and Mexico are just bystanders in this who will get collateral damage. But um, United States is making it a point to disrupt Chinese advancement and inner working throughout the world. If you notice the hot spots of where Donald Trump has hit since he took office, you mentioned Panama. That was a huge node in the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative.
Mhm.
Syria was another node in the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. That's gone. Um, Chinese Belt and Road Initiative was supposed to be involved in Armenia. That's disrupted. Nepal disrupted. They just hit Kazakhstan, going to disrupt that. So we have all these little nodes of Belt and Road Initiative that the United States is disrupting from China. Venezuela is in a very close partnership with China, more so than with Russia. China buys a lot of their oil. Uh, I believe I heard from my friend Aniel that they just recently in August like broke a record for oil exporting or refining or something. So they're like really becoming very formidable in the oil game. Now, I don't think, and we've talked about this, I've talked about this extensively. Venezuela has always been a thorn in the United States side. It's a place that the United States lost in the 80s and 90s to a socialist Bolivarian revolution, the Chavez revolution, the Chavistas. And then since then, they have been unable to overthrow this country. They've absolutely been unable to throw it. The countless coup attempts. One was actually successful for, I think, 48 hours before the people came in and overthrew the new government to reinstall Chavez. I mean, you probably and our listeners probably know the stories of the SEALs and special forces and mercenaries being caught in Venezuela on their way to try to overthrow Maduro. So they've been under an onslaught of propaganda. A really great movie that I recommend for you and our listeners, to the late, God rest his soul, John Pilger, made a movie called The Death of Democracy, and it focuses mostly on what the United States did to mostly Venezuela and the rest of South America too, and Iraq. So very, very good, uh, and a very good documentary to look at for that time period. As far as I can tell, and I'm a Maduro lover, but I like him as a person. I don't really have a lot of opinions on his policies because I don't know that I can get a great read on Venezuela, because the propaganda in the West is so heavy. But from what I can tell and whom I've spoken to, and Chris was just there, um, it seems like life is great and getting better, um, or good at least and getting better, um, with the oil revenues. So, it's to disrupt the it's they're asserting their sovereignty, and they're asserting their sovereignty with the help of China, and that's not going to be okay for the United States, especially when they have the largest oil reserves in the world. They have the largest oil reserves in the world, and they are a corner of the golden triangle, which is Colombia, Bolivia, and Venezuela. So they're just, to the United States, Maduro is just getting too big for his britches. They're getting too successful, and they're becoming too formidable, and they're in our backyard, and they can't be doing stuff without our permission.
Sarah, your friend Chris, he met
Hmm.
the Venezuelan president, correct? Did he?
Yes, he's met Maduro a few times. Yes.
Oh, what? When he met Maduro, what was it like for him? Explain, like for
He
anyone
loves
who wants to get
Maduro.
to know.
Maduro's a very macho but very compassionate man. He's very interesting person, a very good person. Chris adores Maduro. I think he's met him 3 or 4 times now.
Mm.
He
That's
when he
awesome.
met him,
Wow.
when he actually met him this time, they were out in the middle of basically the jungle, with meeting with what they call the peasants. So Maduro goes out into the jungles, into the countrysides, and meets with the peasants and the tribes and everybody. And that's where Chris actually met him. And they were talking to the peasants about it was Maduro and the Secretary of Defense, Padrino. Um, But I believe they were talking to the peasants about a possibility and what will happen, and instructions about if the United States does attack.
Sarah, have you met him yet?
No, I've not met Maduro. I've never been to Venezuela. I've not been to Venezuela yet.
If you meet him, what would you love to talk to him about the most? Like out of any political stuff that you love to talk to him about?
I really want to talk to him about like this sort of pan Latin Americanism, this sort of like getting more of a coalition together of the South American states and really breaking this any American influence in that area and granting them their sovereignty. I'd like to talk about that and how he plans to kind of facilitate that and what other leaders think about it as well. So
Fair enough. That's really, really good. Sarah, if Venezuela does get attacked, like however it does get attacked, how do you see it going? Like, because I think it could happen anytime soon. How do you see it going, and how do you see? Do you think USA will succeed or no?
I agree that with it happening anytime soon. We did have 2 more bombers that flew up to Venezuela and then did some maneuvers parallel to the coast tonight. I'm not sure that the United States knows how to go about attacking Venezuela. From the messaging that I'm reading, or what I'm gleaning from what the White House and Pentagon are saying, is that they don't really know how to attack in Venezuela. They have right now. They have right now they have the amphibious landing ships, which actually carry Marines to do landings onto shore. Then they have they've had the bombers flying in and out of that AOR. Now they have the carrier strike group belonging to the USS Ford, which it's not there yet. It just left the Mediterranean and left the Strait of Gibraltar, I think like a few days ago, maybe 2 days ago or yesterday. And so they're on their way down. So we have like 3 or 4 different modes of attack. Oh, they also have submarines heading down there, and one's down there already, as well as destroyers. So we have 3 or 4 ways to attack Venezuela. We have air to land, sea to land, amphibious landings, like all kinds of things. And it's just like what a like I don't know that they even know how to go about this. It's going to be incredibly difficult. I don't know what their methodology is. It's not like in the Middle East where you can go in and just bomb oil fields and do shock and awe and then just leave the arena. The thing is that I think Donald Trump thinks that right now he can do that to Venezuela, what was done to the Middle East. If you've noticed, we have the Gerald R. Ford heading down there. We have never deployed a carrier strike group in a wartime posture into the Caribbean, or what we call Southcom, down to South America. We have never done this. So this is unprecedented. So there's no way that they can do a boots on the ground. And I don't know that bombing is going to be very effective. So I think in that frustration, they may just bomb a lot. Infrastructure, ports, oil refineries, stuff like that.
I can hear a dog in the background. He's really agreeing with you, like really cutie, very cute dog. Speaking about that, Sarah, as we all know, Donald Trump, of course, from also the people who control him, they've also been, he's been mentioning about Nigeria, and he's saying because there's a genocide. They're saying there's an alleged genocide of Christians going on there. Correct. And what's going on with that? Why is that, like, what's going on there? Why exactly would America like want to target Nigeria, especially when you have countries like Chad and sorry, I think it's Niger and another nation there who recently have kind of their leaders have kind of like become more BRICS, and they like decolonized from Western, kicked out the Western, occupiers there. So go ahead.
Well, anytime, and I advise my viewers to do the same. Anytime you hear the United States saying that they care about a group of people or they want to save a group of people, you should really look into that, because the United States doesn't give a crap about any people, not even their own.
Sorry,
So,
sorry. I also just wanted to ask, what's also so special about the area that Nigeria is in, like that, especially that geolocation and
okay,
stuff? Go ahead. Sorry about the second.
no
Yeah.
worries. So you should pause and kind of look into what's actually going on, because the United States will never invade or bomb a country on behalf of a humanitarian purpose. They use that as an excuse for something else. They did it in Serbia. They've done it in other African countries. And so, you should always pause. And that's why I paused when I saw all the influencers talking about Christians being murdered in Nigeria. Now, Christians being murdered in Nigeria is something that happens because murders happen in Nigeria. It just, and sometimes Christians happen to be the recipient of that murder. Like, it's just kind of like anywhere else, there's a high murder rate. So I started to look into it. I did a segment on my show that goes more in depth, but um excuse me. Now, while most, about 50 to 60% of the deaths, the Christian deaths per year, occur in Nigeria, there's no way to prove that these are faith motivated or anything like that. But, and even with that being said, only 5,000 Christians are killed or were killed last year. So it's really not that large of a number in a country that's completely unstable and has a very large amount of murder anyway. So there may be some faith-based killing in there, and we'll say that. So I started looking into who's dying in Nigeria really. It's mostly Muslims that are dying. And they're dying at the hands of other Muslims and other rebel groups. So there's that. And none of this has anything to do with the government, by the way. This isn't the government persecuting Christians. This isn't the government persecuting Muslims. That government is very westernized. Yes, they're corrupt, but all governments are corrupt. But this is not a government thing. They're not persecuting anybody. Quite the opposite. The government of Nigeria is actually in an upswing right now. They're doing quite well, relatively speaking. And that's where this other facet comes into play. So Nigeria is another oil powerhouse. We just got done talking about Venezuela. Nigeria is basically the Venezuela of Africa. They have an enormous oil resource. I believe they have the largest reserves in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not that large of a country. It's large, but it's not that large. And so, and we all know about Nigerian businessmen, Nigerian princes and Nigerian businessmen. Well, this man, I can't remember his first name, forgive me, but his last name is Dangote, 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 and he is the richest Nigerian. I believe he might even be the richest man in Africa. He owns a group that specializes in trading, exporting, and all of that kind of stuff. And from what I can and what I can understand about him from speaking to Nigerians that I know and reading, is that he's not really a bad guy. He seems like an actually somewhat decent guy as far as businessmen go. And so he built the Dangote refinery. This refinery currently, I think it's 650,000 barrels per day right now. And with the 650,000 barrels per day, Nigeria still has to import unrefined oil, which it then refines itself and uses that. But it's a $10 billion a year it has to import. Recently, uh, through upgrades and more infrastructure, the Dangote oil refinery has surpassed, and I can't remember what the amount is, uh, but has surpassed Nigeria's domestic need. That happened recently. So Nigeria no longer needs to export any oil whatsoever. With the current plans for the Dangote oil refinery, They want to expand it even further and take it from 650,000 barrels of oil per day to over 1 million. I believe it's 1.4 million barrels per day, which is obscene. It will make it the largest oil refinery in the world. Plus, they'll be dealing with natural gas as well. So this is going to make it into an energy juggernaut. And what the Dangote group has said on record, and this to this effect was, this is good, not only good for Nigeria, we want to do this across the continent. We want to make sure that the continent is energy sovereign and stop our reliance on the West for oil. That's what they said. They don't want to rely on the West for energy anymore. They want to be sovereign. So that's why this is. We have Venezuela asserting their sovereignty through their own natural resources, being oil, obviously. And I think Venezuela also has copper, something like that. But asserting their natural, and what is historically the United States has always done, especially in Latin America and Africa, is to take the natural resources and privatize them, right? Privatize them and sell them off to Western countries, these multinational corporations. That's exactly what they want to do in both of these countries. And so Dangote wants to make the whole entire continent oil sovereign. They have pipelines ready to be built. They have the largest and cleanest and most efficient fleet for shipping this stuff. This is a huge maneuver. It's a huge maneuver. It's incredibly good for Nigeria. You mentioned in your question, when you asked me, you mentioned Niger, and I think you said Chad. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso have all gone through, are still going through it somewhat, but major decolonization there. The United States cannot get into Niger, Mali, or Burkina Faso. They cannot, but they can get into Nigeria, and that's how they'll get to Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. So there's that. There's a lot of things going on. And the Christians are just an excuse. Don't forget that China and Nigeria are exceptionally close as well. They have a very close relationship. China has already made a statement about the violation of Nigeria's sovereignty. So it's also to disrupt another one of China's partners. So,
well, Sarah, since that's a very great explanation there, really well done. So since we've got like maybe 10 more minutes left, I'll ask you one more question. And of course, this is a question I'm sure you get asked a lot by people. So, as we all know, when you look at the Corporation of America, which has been a corporation since 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act, which turned it into, well, I mean, it is a corporation. It's been that way since 1930. You could argue the Act of 1871, that made it. The Talmudic elite, the greatest city of London bankers, all that stuff. When you look at like the state of America, and especially like the death of Charlie Kirk, and how the political violence in America seems to be the highest it's been, like ever since right before the first Civil War happened, and it just seems to be like the American empire is crumbling, it's on its last legs, $38 trillion in debt. And you look at all the like events that have happened, and you see like the elitists, the Talmudic greatest city of London bankers, who are in control of the corporation America, bringing in the Palantir system and getting Donald Trump, to give American sovereignty over to more of these corporations, these Zionist oligarchs who control America and stuff like that. And especially when you have the death of Charlie Kirk and the political division. Sarah, and especially how that death, and all this political violence we've seen is just causing people to just lose faith in America, and it's kind of like America's kind of like in an end of like in basically like a pre-Rome, like basically like a stage where right before the Roman Empire collapsed, basically like how that's a lot of people are putting it, like stuff like that, and similar to Spain right before it had a civil war, or right before Spain had a civil war. Sarah, when you look at all of those people, do you think in the next 3 years, the elite, I know you obviously look at it differently, But when you see it going forward, do you think we are getting very close to the end of America where we're going to see America have a huge financial collapse or a civil war happening? What do you think is going to happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's starting to become more apparent. Um,
And is there also, if it happens, how do you think it will happen and how it will go down? Go.
that I don't know. But the Charlie Kirk death has people thought that it was exposing this left right divide. There's not a civil war between the left and the right. There's a civil war between MAGA and America First. And they're not, MAGA is probably entirely on the right, but America First is not an entirely right wing concept. That's where the Civil War is. And MAGA means Zionism, American Zionism. And America First means exactly what it says, America First. That's where the Civil War will be. We really have a problem with uh, and I would call it Jewish power, but it's not Jewish power. It's Zionist power in this instance. Like look at the Republican Jewish Congress or coalition or whatever it was. I mean, the speakers there were Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz. You know, they're not Jews. And Ted Cruz said while he was there, his speech, he said, if we've already lost the Democrat Party because the Democrats turned their backs on Jews. And he said, if if the GOP stops supporting Israel, we lose our party. And if we lose our party, we lose our country. Okay, that butts right up against the America First people. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a great example because she enjoys popularity on both sides of the aisle. And in fact, her popularity with the left is increasing. Same with Thomas Massey. That butts right up against their ideology. That's the Civil War. It's literally the support for Israel. And some people might say it's Jews, whatever. But that's what it comes down to is the support for Israel is the driving wedge of this between the two. Really look at who is putting America truly first. I mean, we have people, for instance, we're in a government shutdown right now. We have people that are starving. We have people that will not be getting a paycheck this coming week. We're going right into the holidays and Black Friday. You know, Americans in Black Friday, they'll kill
Yep.
each other over a toaster, right? We have millions of people that won't even be getting paid leading into the holidays. And these people, I read it today, are passing a bill called the HERE Act. And what the HERE Act is for is to find and like basically retrieve or to rectify Jewish art that was looted by Nazis during World War II. We are in a government shutdown. And that's what their priorities are. That's the Civil War. I hate to say it because I hate for it to be that way, but that's the Civil War. We have and that's where it comes from. You know, you always know that. I mean, it's not so much civil war as I think it will be more along class lines and more along the lines of not revolution because that word's a little bit loaded and I don't think that's appropriate here, but something along those like a peasant uprising or something because people are going to be going without coming this holiday season and things are going to get progressively worse. And the thing is that for the elites while we're watching this, it's getting progressively better, right? They're having great Gatsby parties at
Yep.
Mar-a-Lago for Halloween. They're rebuilding a $400 million East Wing ballroom. For what purpose? We don't know. We don't get to go there. You know, it's like those sorts of things. It's a very let them eat cake sort of laissez-faire attitude. And I think that's where it will come from. And for the most part, these elites are in the pockets of or in close alliance to the Israeli elites, or they're just the same people because of dual citizenship. So that's where the Civil War is probably going to come from. I think it will just happen as people start to really have to go without. Americans don't know what it's like to go without. They're about to find out. And I think that you'll see some major desperate things happening, just acts of desperation over the holiday season if the government doesn't open back up, if things don't start getting markedly better.
That's a good way to put it, Sarah. That's a very, very good way to put it. To explain, what that situation that's going on. It's
Well,
not
you
looking
mentioned
good.
political violence. This is the highest it's the highest it's been since the Civil War, like you said, and that's a study
Yeah.
by Peter Turchin. I recommend the listeners go look into Peter Turchin. He thinks that the end times are very soon, very soon.
No.
Not as
I
the end of the world, the end times for American empire, at
yeah.
least to go into a severe depression, recession, and
I
that kind of cycle, but or the end of it altogether. It's a serious thing that people need to contend with, but
yeah.
they'd rather watch Donald Trump have a Great Gatsby party.
Sarah, I love that comment that you made on a space one time when you were telling MAGA to go get fucked, and like you were telling them, no, you were like, no new wars. That was so good. I recorded that. You remember that? I sent that to you. Oh, that was so good. That was so good when you
We're
were like,
starting new wars. Stop. I don't even know what's happening anymore with war. It's insane. It's really insane.
it
Like the
was a
guy
really good.
there's a carrier strike group right now traversing the Atlantic Ocean to go down to the Caribbean Sea to possibly engage with Venezuela. And this man has the audacity to get on stage to tell us that he stopped 9 wars. He says it every time he gets in front of a
Oh,
microphone.
so stupid. Sarah, I think, in my opinion, I don't know what it is, but I think the elite are going, as all the chaos is going to happen, I think the elite, which is the Federal Reserve, the Greater City of London bankers, that's how I view it, who can really control America. I think what's going to happen when you have, for example, what you mentioned, all of that chaos happening, you're probably going to have a scenario like a BLM 2.0 happen, but much worse, like much worse. And I think what will happen is the government will potentially declare martial law, and then maybe like something will
Uh-huh.
go down from there that will begin like a civil war, like a state trying to succeed, and you have the federal government doing messed up things, and then yeah, basically economic collapse and boom. That's what I think will happen. I won't be surprised if it happens in the midterms. I think it'll be something very similar to like maybe a Bolshevik revolution or something like that. I don't know, but it will be something like that.
Oh yeah, it's going to be way more ideologically driven than BLM. BLM was just, angry people during COVID.
Yeah.
Like
Let,
it's
let's
such
just
a different.
say,
This is
let's
going
just
to
say,
be much different than that because the people that are going to be feeling the effects of this are going to be much different than the people
yeah,
that were
yeah.
affected by BLM.
Let's just say it could be something where it will be like a BLM right, except different people doing it. Violent, you'll have violence like between different people. It will get
Why
really
do you
bad.
think the whole government is now living on United States military bases?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. They've been going towards that. They've been hiding themselves. That's true. And again, when the chaos is happening, I wouldn't be surprised if you have a January 6th event that the elite do that ends, or some type of event, they declare martial law. And in the martial law, you have the federal government troops on the streets doing messed up things, targeting innocent civilians, innocent people, and stuff. And especially they'll go after truth seekers like you. And I hope they don't, because I'll be praying to God you'll be protected from His grace, and people like you too. And after that, that will basically, and as the martial law goes in, I think have people who rebel, which I think will begin the civil war from there. That's how I think it will begin, sir. Basically.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know why the elites would have a January 6th event, but maybe.
Yeah. Sarah, before we finish up, is there anything else you would like to say?
No, I just think that things are for Americans, things are going to get incredibly bad very soon. I hope that they're ready. That's all.
Any good quote you would like to say before we finish up? Anything nice?
Good good quote.
Yeah.
Uh
Anything nice you'd like to say?
anything nice? Well, I mean, now's the time for class consciousness, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have anything positive to say right now. Israel's still bombing Lebanon and Gaza, you know. I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing positive right now.
You know, Sarah, all we can do is we can pray to God. God, whatever wins at the end of the day, Jesus wins at the end. That's that. God is always there with us. Pray for humanity. Pray for everything. You know, for humanity to find God. He's, yep, pretty much that.
Yeah.
You know, he's there with us no matter what. You know, I would say. So yeah. Anyway, Sarah, it was wonderful having you on my show again. It was an absolute pleasure. I know the ending was a bit depressing because I know, you know, the future of America is not looking very good, but the future of China is looking very good. I mean, China and Russia too. The future, like I said, I think the future is going to be in China, which it is, and I think Russia too. I think it will be, honestly. But yeah, before you finish up, Sarah, where can people find you?
Go to ddgeopolitics.com. You can find links to all of our socials, and even videos and articles are all there.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sarah. So yeah, I just want to say, Sarah, it was an absolute pleasure having you on my show again. We should definitely do another show in the future. It's always a pleasure having you. You're fantastic. You're awesome. And also, God bless you. I'm also going to be praying to God that He's going to protect you, because America needs a person like you. It really does, because you're one of those people that can definitely change the country for better. But speaking about that, also, I just want to say to everyone, thank you for joining the Welsh Republic podcast, episode 171. Make sure you go follow Sarah's work, go follow DDG Geopolitics. Fantastic show, probably the best geopolitics show out there. Sarah is probably the best geopolitical person analysis out there, no question about it. Easy, hands down. But yeah, and also everyone, look, to you Americans, I know, you know, it's a rough time in America and it's horrible, but you know what? Have faith in God. I do believe that America will go through a rough patch and will go through its dark ages, but it will get through it. And I do, and pray to God. Pray to God. Have faith in God. God will always be there for you. As they say, you know, Jesus, He's King. He's King. So
Yes, Christ is
please,
King.
yeah, have faith. Always be grateful for what you have. And also, guys, be grateful for the small things you have in life, because it could be taken away from any of you if you be grateful for the small things, because it makes life worth it, you know. And I think the one thing Americans need to do is be grateful for the small things, you know, because at the end of the day, we're this, you know, we have the same blood. We're God's children. You know, his, you know, thing. But anyways, take care. Thank you for joining the Welsh Republic podcast, episode 171, guys. Take care. God bless you all. Stay safe. Remember, bye-bye, and never give up. Bye.